welcome. Today I'm going to show you how I needle felted this cute witchy jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. I really hope you enjoy this. If you do, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. I really appreciate all your support. And also don't forget to connect with me by leaving your comments below. Okay, so to make our witchy jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, I've got a pipe cleaner, I've got some core wool, I've got some black wool, I've got some white wool, orange section of needles. I've also got these green curls of wool, which I'm going to use for the hair. I got these from Simply Felting, but if you can quite easily curl your own wool. If you want to see how I've done this, then check out my pink pony video, because I show you in that how I made these curls for the pony. Obviously, you just make them green or whatever colour you want your witch's hair to be. I've also got a couple of other greens. I'm not sure if I'm going to use these for decoration, but I've got them to hand just in case. So I'm going to start by folding my pipe cleaner in half. And snip that in half, and then I'm going to find the middle point of these, which is there, and then I'm going to just link those. And they're going to sit with, that's the sort of shape that I wanted to create. Next up, I'm going to grab my core wool. I am going to measure this out to give you an idea. So I've got about 3.3 grams of core wool there. And I'm going to start by taking off a bit of my core wool and wrapping this tightly round my pipe cleaners. And I'm just going to grab my needle. Just be careful when you're felting this in. Be mindful that in the middle of your pipe cleaners, you've got wire. So if you hit that too hard, it's going to break your needle. Also, by wrapping our wool tightly, what that does is it reduces your felting time. Next up, I'm going to grab another piece, and this time I'm going to go through the middle of the pipe cleaners. Again, pulling it nice and tight, and then felt this on. Obviously, don't forget to turn it over because you have to felt both sides. Now I've basically secured my pipe cleaners into place for where I want them to sit. And I've got a small ballish shape. I'm now going to start to build this up, but making sure I keep the shape of the pipe cleaners, and I don't want to lose too much of the length as I build this up. So I'm just going to add a bit of my core wool at a time, and just keep going like this to create the ball shape until I've built it up to the size that I'm happy with. Okay, so I added another gram of core wool to that, and I've now got a firm base. The reason, I should have explained this at the beginning, the reason that I use the core wool for the base is because it's a cheaper wool and it's more cost effective. So then I do the top coat in the colour, and in this case it's orange. What I've done with this is it's a bit wider here, the ball, than it is on top, just because that's, to me, what a pumpkin shape is. And when you're felting this, you need to be mindful of the fact that you don't want to make it too big, because you have got the orange, which is going to go on top and bulk it out. But also, you don't need to worry too much about any imperfections at this stage, or if it looks slightly less wool in one place, because you can correct that when you go on to using your coloured wool. So I'm going to break off some of my orange, and then I'm just going to start by covering my pumpkin round. It's up to you if you want to use a single needle, multi-needle, but all we're going to do now is we're just going to work our way round and make sure we give this a really nice even coverage, and you can't see any of the any of the core wall peeking through. Once you're happy with the shape of your pumpkin, next up we're going to pop the lines in. And to do this, I'm going to split my legs and lay the pumpkin down like that. This is going to be my front, so I should have said that. So you need to decide what you want to be your front and your back. This is going to be my front. Now I want for my lines to go either side round the pumpkin, and then I'm going to put in another one down there and another one there. So I'm going to split it up to sort of 6 sections. So I'm going to start by finding the middle point of my pumpkin and just repeatedly stab the needle in there to create an indentation for where we're going to start. Then I am going to use my needle and just create straight up and down needle marks to come down in a line. And you're just going to repeatedly go over these to create the indentation. And hopefully you can see now we've just got a nice indentation in there, and I'm going to do this over the other side. We're not going to go right round at the moment. Oh, I find it easier to work towards myself. And once you've got that, then I'm going to work out where I want my next ones to go to, and I think I'm going to come out here. And here. And then we're going to continue those over the other side. And then we're going to, once you're happy with the shape and position of all of those, then we're going to gradually bring those round to the other side or to the underneath. Again, I'm going to actually make my middle point in the bottom. And then once you're happy that you've got all your indentations all the way around, we're then going to go over these to push them in a bit more to give them more definition. Once you're happy with all your indentations on your pumpkin, next up we're just going to go over and have a look at the shape. Now I'm happy with my front part, but at the back it's a bit don't know if you can see that, it's a bit more up there and I feel like it could do with a bit of patching there. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of my orange wool, my needle, and then I'm just going to felt that in to fill the dent. Right, once you're happy with the shape and you haven't got any core wool showing and everything like that, next up I'm going to put the face on this. Now to do this, I'm possibly going to use a couple of needles to decide where I want my eyes, and I'm probably going to have the middle points in the dents. So you want to even work those. And then, in fact, I'm going to put the eyes in first. So I'm going to use my needle. So I'm just creating a shape for where I want the eyes. Once you're happy, you can take out the needle guides. And then if you want to just dent that in a little bit more, you can. And then I'm going to grab some of my black. Don't need much. And I'm going to roll this up in my fingers, and that's too much. Roll that up in my fingers. You can start with less, and then I'm going to push this in. And fill that hole we made. Now I'm trying to create a sort of half circle shape here. So I want the bottom part to be flat and then an arch at the top. I'm going to fill in the other eye next. Again, trying to create that half circle shape. Now I am happy to make these a bit bigger, but what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to roll my wool between my fingers and twist it, and then I'm going to start at the outside and carefully poke that in and go round the outside of the eye. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Then I'm going to do the same on the other eye. Right, once you're happy with your eyes, next up we're going to move on to the mouth. And I'm going to try and create a smile. So I'm going to use my needle, and I want it to go from this point over to this point. So from this ridge over to this ridge. I'm just trying to mark it out roughly where I want it to start, and then I'm going to grab some more of my black wool. Again, roll this up in my fingers and start that at one side. Oh, I'll grab my smaller needle. And then felt that in. and twist it. And bring it round to the other side and felt that in. And then I'm just gonna roll it back round. Once you're happy with the positioning of your smile, I'm going to give this a little black tooth. So I'm just going to pull off a little bit, roll it in my fingers. Position it where you want it. So it's not right in the middle. I'm just going to do it slightly off center. Just using my needle to poke in around the edges to try and straighten up the lines of the tooth. I mean, obviously, if you want, you could give yours more teeth than that, but that's what I'm happy with. Next up, I am going to do the arms and legs. Now, to do this, I'm going to grab my white wool. And I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to wrap this round the pipe cleaner, pulling it nice and tight. Twisting it round, and this will just cling on to the pipe cleaner, and you can just use your needle to push that back in, and felt that onto the pipe cleaner. So I'm going to do the same with all arms and legs and make sure all the bits are covered. Now at the top, if you don't want it to bleed into your orange pumpkin, you just try and push it up to the top to hide it, and then you can just gently push it into your pumpkin. Just to cover it. And then roll it round between your fingers, pulling it nice and tight. And using your needle to just secure it onto the pipe cleaner. As I said, we're going to go around all of them and just make sure they're all covered, and we've got a nice amount of white so that you can't see any of the colour of the pipe cleaner peeking through. Once you've covered your legs, we're then just going to go over them with the needle just to make sure that they're sort of even all the way up and down. As you can see, this one's got a few lumps and bumps. Once you're happy that they're evenly covered, next up is a slight change of plans. I'm not covering my arms in white now. I'm going to use black. I'm going to do the same, cover them the same way as I did before. Or cover the arms the same way as I did the legs, wrapping it round, gently pushing it in to the pumpkin at the top just to hide any of the green there. What I'm doing is I'm holding my needle at this angle just to try and push the black in as close as possible to the pipe cleaner. And then once I feel like that's secured, I'm then just going to wrap this round. Try and evenly cover this. If you've got metal bits poking out at the end and you can feel them, what you can do, just peel that back for a minute, is just turn that over and in and then wrap this round. Actually, that's just gonna give us a little bit more of a rounded end on the hand. As you can see, I've still got a bit peeking out there, so I'm going to grab a little bit more and just wrap that round. Just switch into my little foam mat because it seems to be sticking, the black seems to be sticking to that and making it a bit fluffy. Okay, once you're happy with your arms and your legs, next up I'm going to grab some more of the black and I'm going to stripe the legs here. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to get my little mat in between and then I'm going to just, so all I did there, sorry, I'm not sure. So grab my little bit of black, try and create a sort of strip, pop the leg on to my little mat and then felt that onto the white leg. Just go round, attaching that on, neatening up the lines. And I'm going to do that on both legs and repeat it all the way, probably down to about there. In fact, let's turn our feet in because, of course, a witch is going to need boots. Stand that up, and then, yeah, they're about the right same leg length now. So I'm going to continue with striping the legs down. Now, once you've got your legs on, I'm going to neaten them up a bit in a minute. So next up, we're going to put the boots on. I've got some more black. Don't worry that they're a little bit messy at the moment. We'll neaten that up. I'm going to, first of all, grab another bit of black and put another ring around the leg. This is going to mark where the top of the boot is. And then bring some more down and cover the bottom of the foot. If you find it easier, you can straighten it out and then just turn it back up afterwards, after it's all been covered. You want to try and create a bit of a point on the end of the shoe, you can. If you want to leave it rounded, that's absolutely fine, because obviously it is a bit fiddly. Right, once you're happy that you've got your stripes on and you've got your boots, next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my spiral needle to just try and neaten them up a little bit. Once you're happy they're neater, we're going to move on to the hat. So I'm going to pop that off to one side. I'm going to grab some of the black. And I'm going to start by just rolling this into a sort of cone shape. And I'm going to grab my needle, and then I'm just going to felt this to create a point at the top. I'm just working this round. It's holding its shape now, and now I'm just going to felt some more down the end, but I'm not going to felt the bottom because eventually we're going to open that out to create the brim of the hat. Now we want to get an idea, that's going to be too high, so height wise, start pulling this open at the bottom. Now that is about the right sort of height for my hat. So I'm going to leave the base open, and I'm going to thicken this up a little bit by just wrapping some more around. And then felting that on. So that's firming up quite nicely. I'm just going to grab my finer needle to try and refine the point a bit. Roll between your hands if you need to. I think actually I might pop that off to the, like, give it a little bit of a side hat. So I'm quite happy with the height of that and the general size. So next up I'm going to flatten it out, and I'm going to start to felt this round to create a brim. Yeah, I'm going to need some more, so I'm going to pop that, and it needs to thicken up a bit around here. So just folded that under, and then I'm going to join. Just add in bits. As you can see, it's a bit thin on there, so I'm just going to fold that under, add it to the underneath, and then felt that on. Like that. And then I'm just going to get bit by bit and work it round. Once you're happy that it's a decent sort of thickness and there's not really any gaps, then I'm just going to use my needle and go round and just neaten up the edges, poking those into the brim. Again, just check the size. So that brim is quite big, so I can sort of really afford to poke that in quite a lot as we go round and thicken that up. Again, I'm not felting the underneath at the moment, just the top and sides, because we're going to use the underneath that isn't felted to attach this to the pumpkin. Okay, so I'm happy with that for my hat sort of size and shape. Next up, we need to add the hair. So I'm going to grab my strands, my curls. And actually, I think I prefer the darker ones that are in here. So I'm just going to pull off some of these. Have a look once you've got your hat on to get an idea of the sort of length. Yeah, that's probably a good length. So I'm going to start with this bit, and then I'm just going to felt them in on the top. And then just add bits in where I feel they need to go. Might just add a couple of bits of the lighter green in just for a bit of contrast. So I'm just going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to grab this lighter green curl, chop that off, and then I'm just going to add that at the front here to give it a little bit of colour contrast. I'll just do the same on the other side. And then maybe just a bit down the back. Right. Just carefully put in a few underneath to fill it out a bit. And just grab my little scissors to chop off this bit that's a bit fluffy. Chop these out, and then just, I feel like there's a space here that we could do with a bit more. And then once you're happy with your hair and that you've got enough curls there, then you can just grab your witch's hat. Just gonna tuck that round a bit, I think. Grab our hat, decide where you want that, and then felt that on. by pressing the brim down in to your pumpkin. And if when you turn it over, you want to have some more at the back, you can always add a little bit more in. Okay, so now I've got everything attached to my witchy jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. That's a bit of a mouthful. Now I'm just going to add a little detail to the top of the hat. Now I've just got a bit of my white. I'm just going to fold that in half, and then I'm going to carefully sit that on top of the hat. Use my fine needle to felt that round. Then fold this round. And just overlap it. When I'm happy with the overlap, I'm just going to pull off the excess. And just felt the rest in. That just gives a bit of a nice contrast on our hat. Poke that round at the bottom. Once you're happy that's all on, I'm going to get a little bit of my orange. I'm just going to pull this off. And what I want to try and do, in fact I might do it over here first on my felting mat. Just felt through the middle. Then I want to just turn that bit in, felt that. And then turn the other side in. Felt those both in together. Carefully peel that off my mat. I'm gonna trim off this one, trim off one end. And then just wrap that bit round the middle. And try and felt a little bow. Once you're happy with your little bow, I'm just gonna, there's a couple of longer bits there just hanging around, so I'm just gonna carefully trim those off. You just go round with your needle either side of the bit that you wrap round the bow. That's just going to give it a little bit more definition. And then once you're happy, just decide where you want your bow. I'm going to go with there, and then just felt that, hold it into place and felt it through the middle. Until it's attached. If you want it to sit a little bit differently, just sort of, I just wanted the top part up just a little bit higher, so I've just attached that loosely to the top of the hat, down here to the bottom. And that is how we make a little witchy jack-o'-lantern. I'm really pleased with the way my little witchy jack-o'-lantern has turned out. You could lean this against something to have it sitting up, or you can bend the legs and have it sitting down. Bend the arms because obviously they're pipe cleaners, or, you know, do whatever you want with it. Style it as you would. Let me know in the comments below what you decide to do. And if you tried this tutorial out, let me know how you got on. Any comments, pop them below. If you like this, I'd really appreciate it if you give a thumbs up and hit the like. And if you want to see more like this, please hit subscribe. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing a couple of other characters that tie in with this, so be sure to look out for those. And I'm going to just link a couple of other videos for you that I think you might enjoy. Thank you.